The ground shook again, not from an explosion this time, but from something far larger deciding gravity was optional. He adjusted his grip, muttering that if the universe wanted him dead, it could at least stop being theatrical about it. Around him, the coalition line bent but didn't break, a miracle he credited entirely to poor enemy planning, and a shared understanding that nobody here was paid enough for heroics. She moved beside him with practiced precision, close enough that he could hear her breathing between bursts of energy fire. It was steady, almost annoyingly calm, as if the battlefield were an inconvenience rather than a lethal environment. "You're drifting left," she said, tone mild like commenting on weather. "I like left," he replied, deflecting a strike that came in far too fast for comfort. "Left and I have an understanding." Another enemy lunged, too close. No room. He turned, blade meeting blade, and felt the jolt run up his arm. The impact wasn't clean. Something slid, something parted. He registered the resistance a fraction of a second too late. There was a sound that didn't belong in combat, soft, almost polite. The pressure vanished. The enemy recoiled. And then she stopped. Her weapons fell from her hands, hitting the mud with a clatter that felt obscenely loud. She stared forward, unblinking, as if the battle had politely excused itself from her awareness. He turned fully, already forming an apology for whatever near miss he assumed he'd caused. She knelt. "Okay," he said, because silence felt dangerous. "That's new." Around them, shots screamed past. Someone shouted something untranslatable but clearly angry. She did not move. "You hit?" he asked. No response. He crouched, waving a hand in front of her face. "Hey, still with us?" Her gaze lowered, not to him, but to the ground between them. He followed it and saw the braid lying there, severed cleanly, faintly warm, as if it hadn't quite accepted being separate yet. "Oh no," he said softly, then louder, "Oh no, no, no." She exhaled. "It is done." "What's done?" He reached for the braid, lifting it carefully like an apology with weight. This is fixable. I've seen worse in civilian bathrooms." She didn't look up. "You have claimed what cannot be reclaimed." He laughed once, sharp and wrong. "I absolutely did not claim anything. I deflected. Big difference, very legal difference." Her shoulders straightened. "Intent is not relevant." "That's not how most things work," he said, as another explosion rattled the horizon. "Listen, we can talk culture later. Right now, standing up would be fantastic." "I cannot," she replied. "I am bound." He stared at her, then at the braid, then briefly at the sky as if answers might be falling late. "Bound how?" She finally met his eyes. There was no drama in her expression, just certainty. "Until death, yours or mine." He opened his mouth, closed it. "Tried again. I'm going to need you to understand how unreasonable that sounds." Behind them, enemy units began to advance, drawn by the sudden lack of return fire. He stood, offered her a hand out of reflex. She took it instantly, rising with smooth efficiency, posture subtly altered, attention fixed entirely on him. Awaiting. "Okay," he said weakly. "First command, we survive the next 5 minutes. After that, we renegotiate reality." She inclined her head. "As you will." Somewhere in the distance, something massive roared. He tightened his grip on his weapon, the severed braid still looped awkwardly over his wrist. The universe, he decided, had an extremely warped sense of humor. The station alarm had been ringing for 6 minutes before anyone admitted it was real. That was a personal record. He knew this because the red light above the corridor flickered exactly once per second, and he'd counted them while arguing with a vending unit that insisted water was a luxury hydration experience, and priced accordingly. "This is why people hate artificial intelligence," he muttered, prying the panel open with a multi-tool that had absolutely no business being used as a crowbar. Behind him, she stood perfectly still, not tense, not alert, just ready, ready in the way gravity was ready to pull you down if you stepped wrong. "The alarm indicates hostile boarding," she said. "Probability of survival increases if you issue directives." "I'm working up to that," he replied. "Emotionally." The lights cut out. Emergency illumination kicked in late as if embarrassed. Somewhere metal screamed, which he hoped was structural and not personal. She tilted her head. "You appear stressed." "That's my natural state," he said. "If I stop being stressed, check my pulse." A bulkhead blew inward at the far end of the corridor. Shapes poured through, angular, mechanical, loud in the way things are loud when they want you to notice how dangerous they are. He raised his weapon, then hesitated. "Okay," he said quickly. "Ground rules. I'm not comfortable ordering you around." "I am comfortable obeying," she replied. "That's the opposite of helpful." The machines advanced. One of them fired, missing by a margin that felt intentional and insulting. He sighed. "Fine, temporary command, defend the corridor. Non-suicidal methods preferred." She moved instantly, too instantly. It was like watching a thought become action without bothering with the middle steps. The first machine went down. The second followed. The third tried to adapt and failed creatively. He fired when necessary, mostly to feel involved. Between bursts, he said, "You know, in my culture, lifelong bonds usually involve paperwork and at least one awkward dinner." "In mine," she replied, disarming something that had definitely not been designed to be disarmed. "They involve fewer misunderstandings." "That feels statistically unlikely." When the corridor finally went quiet, the alarm cut off mid-tone, as if surprised by its own success. Smoke drifted. Systems hummed back into uncertain operation. She turned to him, waiting. "Don't," he said. "Please don't look at me like that." "Like what?" "Like I'm a sunrise you're legally obligated to admire." She considered this. "I do not know what a sunrise is." "Lucky you." He leaned against the wall, sliding down until he was sitting, suddenly exhausted. "This isn't right," he said. "You know that, right?" "Yes." "That was too fast." "Yes." "That doesn't bother you." "It does," she said. "But discomfort does not negate compulsion." He laughed quietly. The galaxy really needs better warning labels. She crouched in front of him, mirroring his posture without being asked. "You are attempting humor to stabilize yourself." "Working. Marginally. I'll take it." Silence stretched, not hostile, just uncertain. Somewhere deep in the station, repair drones began undoing the damage with bureaucratic persistence. "I will not command you unless I must," he said finally. She inclined her head. "I will obey regardless." "That's not comforting." "It is honest." He closed his eyes. "I wanted a simple contract. Shoot bad things, get paid. Leave with all parties morally intact." She watched him carefully. "Your species sets unrealistic expectations." He smiled despite himself. They argued for 17 minutes about a chair. "This is not a command," he said for the fourth time. "It's a suggestion, a friendly suggestion. Sit." She remained standing. "Sitting requires authorization." "It absolutely does not." "For me, it does." He pinched the bridge of his nose and immediately regretted it because his helmet hadn't been designed for emotional distress. "Fine. I hereby authorize you to sit, temporarily, for rest-related purposes only." She sat instantly. Perfect posture, hands folded, attentive in a way that made him feel like he was about to be graded. "This is a nightmare," he muttered. The ship lurched as it slipped into a temporary fold, the kind of cheap faster-than-light maneuver that came with disclaimers nobody read. The stars outside smeared, reassembled, then gave up pretending to make sense. The navigation console chirped happily, proud of itself. "You may rescind authorization at any time," she said. "I will not," he replied. "Please stop reminding me that I can do things I don't want to do." She considered that. "Your reluctance is statistically unusual for a bondholder." "Lucky me," he said. "I always wanted to be an outlier in an interstellar ethical catastrophe." A warning tone sounded. Not urgent, more apologetic. "Ship suggests we talk," he said, reading the display. "That's never good." "The ship is correct," she said. He laughed, traitor. They talked, not all at once, in pieces. between system checks and half-eaten ration packs that tasted like the concept of protein. She explained the biology without ceremony. Neural pathways rerouted, decision hierarchies rewritten, loyalty reflexes embedded so deep they predated language. He listened, asked questions, occasionally swore. "So if I say pass the salt," he said carefully, "you'd—" "Yes." "And if I say don't obey me, I would not be able to comply." "Fantastic," he said. "Recursive slavery, very elegant." "It was designed to prevent societal collapse," she said. "It worked, mostly." "Define mostly." "There was an empire," she said, briefly. He stared at the bulkhead. Of course there was. The ship dropped out of fold with a shudder. Somewhere far away, something enormous ignored them completely, which felt like a kindness. He stood. "Okay. New protocol. I speak as little as possible." She stood too. "Not a command," he snapped. "I inferred intent." "That's worse." A silence followed, stretched thin but not breaking. He realized something then, quietly, inconveniently. "You still joke," he said. "Yes." "That's not compelled." "No. So they're still you." She met his eyes. "I was not erased, I was redirected." He swallowed. "I'm going to fix this." "You may fail." "Almost certainly." "That does not diminish the attempt." He smiled, tired and crooked. "You're really bad at making this easier." "I am adapting," she said. "Humor assists you. Therefore," she paused, precise, "your haircutting skills are catastrophically impressive." He laughed despite everything. Low blow. "I am learning," she replied. The ship sailed on, carrying two people bound by the oldest mistake in the galaxy, assuming intent mattered more than consequence. The solution arrived the way most bad ideas do, quietly, with paperwork. It came from an archivist species that looked like a walking apology and spoke in footnotes. They did not promise miracles. They promised precedent, which was apparently rarer. The law they uncovered was ancient, older than her civilization's bond rituals, buried beneath ceremonial language and biological assumptions no one had questioned in millennia. He read it 3 times, then a fourth because hope made him suspicious. "You're saying," he said slowly, "that the bond is valid only if the claimant accepts it." "Yes," the archivist replied. "Acceptance need not be verbal. Any sustained exercise of authority qualifies." He froze. "So, if I never accepted it?" The archivist's eyes blinked sideways. "Then the bond has been waiting." He looked at her. She understood immediately. That was the worst part. "You have avoided commanding me whenever possible," she said. "You have treated obedience as a malfunction rather than a right." He scratched his head. "I mostly treated it like a bomb with opinions." "That restraint matters," the archivist said. "Biology listens to behavior." The process was simple, terrifyingly so. A reversal pulse, a controlled neural unwind, painful but survivable. The risk was hers. The choice finally was hers. "Say no," he told her quietly, "please." She smiled, fully this time, freely. "I want my braid back," she said, metaphorically, "and I want you to stop apologizing like you broke a vase." The pulse hit. She screamed once. He didn't look away. When it was over, she stood on her own, not waiting, not attentive, just standing. They stared at each other. "Well?" he asked. She took a step back. Another. Testing gravity, autonomy, the terrifying freedom of not being compelled. Then she laughed, sharp, breathless, alive. "I feel," she said, "profoundly unemployed." He laughed too, shaky and relieved. "I hear that's contagious." Later, much later, they sat on the hull plating, watching a star do something illegal with physics. She had regrown the braid, not the memories, but something new. Hers. "So," he said, "what now?" She considered. "I could report you." "Fair." "I could punch you." "Also fair." Or, she said, "I could stay, not because I must." He nodded. "That's the only offer I'm allowed to make." She stayed. He never stopped being careful. But he stopped being afraid of speaking. He learned that responsibility didn't mean silence. It meant choosing words like they mattered. Because they did. The galaxy kept spinning, blissfully indifferent, but somewhere inside it, An ancient mistake had finally been corrected. Not by force,